So, all right, guys, we got to get this one right. On three, we're going to say, welcome back to Extraordinary Thoughts Flowing in Mind. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to Mind.
And we back.
That'll work right there.
Yeah.
And we back. And we
Yeah.
back. And we back. And we
We did our
back. And we
Y'all did y'all best. And that's all that
and
matters.
we What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm your host, Demetrius Thickpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of Extraordinary Thoughts for the Ordinary Mind. No, staying true to the whole theme of this season. I have been doing a little bit more reflection. You know what I mean? I've been doing a little bit more reflection. And I feel like I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like this season in so many ways mirrors my first season. You know what I mean? Like my first season, I had so much things to talk about because I was dealing with so many things. And with each episode, I was finding a way to just like clear my soul on a different subject. I was finding a way to finally close out a chapter within my life, if that makes sense. So after listening to Friday's episode about overthinking, I started to think, Jesus Christ, I started to think what during the overthinking process, you know what I mean? Like during that problem when you're just bombarded, but just with like thoughts of, like you can't do this, or, you're trying to take in like so much information at one point that it just feels like you're blowing up. There's a certain expectation, you know what I mean? There's a certain expectation that you start to have of yourself. And I was reading this article, and this article was telling me about like how you shouldn't use should in a sentence in reference to you. And an example of that is when you say things like, I should be able to do this. You're already putting an expectation on yourself that you're supposed to be able to do this. And because you can't do this, now that's about to cause you another form of distress. You shouldn't say things like, we should be going here or we should be doing this. Because once again, should means that it's supposed to happen. Should means that normally this is what happens. But the problem is that when you're faced with those type of situations and you're saying to yourself like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I shouldn't have done that. You're already saying, I know that I can do this. I know I'm capable, but I'm not performing at that level. And we're ignoring the exterior things. You see what I'm saying? We're ignoring that you probably are having a bad day. We're probably ignoring the fact that you're hurt. We're probably ignoring the fact that you're stressed. We're probably ignoring all of these other things that are going into the equation, but we're so focused on the fact that you should be able to do this. And I think that's the problem. Now I'll be lying. I'll be lying if I said that I wasn't the type of person that does that. You know what I mean? Especially if I've have like history in doing something and I mess up, the first thing that goes in my mind is I should be able to do this. You show up late, I shouldn't be doing this. I know better. Just fuck the fact that you probably just overslept. Fuck the fact that your alarm probably didn't go off. Fuck the fact that there's traffic. Fuck the fact that all of these other X, Y, and Z things are happening that caused it. Just fuck it. Now, once again, this isn't an episode where I tell you to make excuses for the things that you're doing. But this is the episode where I tell you that it's okay. It's okay. This is the episode where I tell you to stop being so fucking hard on yourself. And I always feel like I'm just talking to myself when I say these things. Like, you got to stop being so fucking hard on yourself. Like you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to be human. But the thing is that although I acknowledge the fact that I am human, I keep ignoring the fact that I was not made to be perfect. And I remember saying this one time, like it's in the contract, like we're supposed to make mistakes, trial and error. That's our life. But the problem is that we get so hell bent on being proficient that we misconstrue the lines of being proficient at something and being perfect at it. And the thing is that you can be proficient at something and still make mistakes. You can still be proficient and make mistakes. Even the best people. Fucking Tom Brady's going to fucking throw an interception at one point in his life. He's not going to just sit back and say to himself, I'm the worst quarterback at all. No, that's not how that works. But you need to start doing that for yourself. When I did this episode, and, once again, we just building up to the topic. Just give me a minute. But when I did this episode, I initially had already recorded this. This was supposed to be my New Year's resolution episode. And when I recorded, I kind of just felt like, when I recorded, I kind of just didn't feel comfortable with the delivery of it, if that makes sense. I kind of just didn't. I felt like I was forcing myself to record. I felt like I was just kind of like just forcing myself to be here. And that's another thing that I really want to address before we start this episode, that we got to stop forcing ourselves to be somewhere that we're not supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. But my New Year's resolution, going into the new year, was that I promised myself that I would be more compassionate. And I remember Shinny telling me this back in like relationship problems, like 3 or 4. She said, like, you need to learn to be more compassionate with yourself. Like the same way that you give compassion to other people is the same way that you need to be more compassionate with yourself. Like the same way that you are quick to excuse someone else's behavior because you're acknowledging the situations that are surrounding them, that's the same way that you need to be with yourself. And I bring that up because we're so hard on ourselves on so many occasions, but we're not hard on everybody else in the manner that we're hard on ourselves. I even asked myself a couple of questions. Am I hard on myself because I know me? Am I hard on myself because I'm the one that's going through it? Am I hard on myself because I have this idea that because I'm always in a leadership position, because I desire to be a certain thing, that in my desire, I've excluded imperfection, failure. So with this being said, I want to just say, moving in, we're going to give ourselves permission. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. So the first thing that I feel like we need to start giving ourselves permission on is, and I feel like before we can start anything, you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how everybody else's New Year's resolutions are going. You see what I'm saying? Like, did you make a New Year's resolution to lose weight? Did you make a New Year's resolution to get that job? Did you just make a New Year's resolution just to get through this year because last year was just an other shit show? How is it going? How is it going? For us that are moving towards a goal, and that's not to minimize anything towards anybody, but for us that have like said like, hey, this is what I want to do before the summer. This is what I want to do before the year. Did you give yourself permission to fail first? For real, did you give yourself permission to fail? And that might sound crazy. Did you give yourself permission to fail? And I say that because, I'm really talking to me. Because anytime that I start something new, I give myself permission to do it, but I don't give myself permission to fail. And see, this is the thing. This is why I keep saying give yourself permission, because if you don't give yourself permission, one thing that I need you to understand is that life is still going to happen. Life is going to happen regardless of the situation. Shit's still going to happen. But whether or not you decide how you take it is going to be determined whether or not you're going to be able to continue to keep moving forward. So when I say give yourself permission to fail, failure is on the horizon. You know, we always say that, hey, no failure. Hey, we're not going to fail today. I don't know. That's a hard commitment right there. I don't know if I'm not going to fail. I don't know that. But the problem is that I'm not about to fight failure. Am I doing something with the purpose to fail? Absolutely not. That's not the goal. The goal is success. But failure has to be on the plate. Failure has to be on the table. And I say that because you're going to upset yourself and you're going to discourage yourself if you do not give yourself permission to fail. Let me rephrase. If you don't give yourself permission to be fucking human. Like you got to understand, especially if you're trying something new. You walking into the situation, you think you fucking Goku from fucking Dragon Ball Z, like you take one try and then all of a sudden you a master at it? Come on, nah, come on, Meech. Humble yourself. You ain't that good. You gonna fail. You gonna keep failing until you get it right. I'm gonna say that, you gonna keep failing until you get it right. But based off of how you perceive it, you're gonna be, each failure is either gonna feel like a fucking rock being hit every single time, or it's just gonna feel like, damn, all right, I messed up. All right, I gotta keep going. And when you give yourself permission to fail, the success that comes afterwards is amazing. And before we even move on to the next topic, I just really want to just give, is it an analogy? No, it's not an analogy. It's a scenario. No, it's not a scenario. Whatever. I don't know how many parents I have that listen to this episode. I don't know. But what I do know is that as we were holding our first child, nurturing them, allowing them to grow, there was a moment when they had to start taking their first steps. And as they took their first steps, they would fall on their face, you know what I mean? But then they would get back up. They'd take a couple of more steps and then they'd fall on their face. And we as parents, we wanted to help them back up. We as parents wanted to help them, hold their hands as they took their steps. But the thing about nature, you see what I'm saying? Nature tends to overpower nurture in times like this, because although we want to help them, we know that they have to learn this on their own. And each time the child failed, not once did they sit back and say, damn, man, I can't do it. They were just excited about how far they were able to go this time. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I need you to tap back into that inner child. Every time that you embark on a new task or a task that you feel that you need to fine tune, I really need you to embark on that new child again as they take their first steps. And then those first steps turn to a run, and then those runs be turned into whatever it is that we were able to utilize with our bodies. Give yourself permission to fail. I feel like if we're going to give ourselves permission to fail, we definitely need to give ourselves permission to succeed. And somebody probably listening to this episode right now, like, I don't need permission to succeed. Okay. Hey, calm down now. Calm down. I don't need that type of aggression on a Monday morning. I don't need that. But who I am talking to are the ones that always minimize their success. They always shortchange themselves. Make it seem like as the extraordinary thing that they're doing isn't that big of a deal. And when I first saw this topic, you see what I'm saying? When I saw this point, I didn't understand it. And then I really had to go back in time. Do you know how many times I've compromised or I've minimized my success because I was around people that I feel like were not successful? You know what I mean? You don't share things with everybody because you don't want to make them jealous. You don't want to share things with other people because you don't want them thinking that you're better than them. You try to dull down who you are. You try to dull it down a little bit so that way it's not that big of a deal. I remember one time somebody sat me down and they were going through my master brief sheet and they just I'm talking about every little piece of things that I was doing. They were just like, that ain't shit. That ain't shit. Oh, you got a NAM. Everybody get one of them. And I'm just like, when I walked out, I felt so small. Like my accomplishments weren't that big. So I really want to just tell somebody right now that whether the accomplishment is small or big, it's still an accomplishment. Success is success, period. And I'm just be honest with you. I'm one of them people that celebrate small victories. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but small victories win the battle. How the hell you think these wars are going to get won? It's the small victories that lead up to it. And if you don't celebrate your small victories, who gonna celebrate them? I'm gonna just say that one more time. If you don't celebrate your small victories right now, who gonna celebrate them? Y'all be going through life ignoring your victories but acknowledging your failures. Oh man. Your failures get the front seat. Your victories get the back seat. Your failures get posted all over the fucking walls as framed up, but your success gets tossed in the fucking attic. Nah, that ain't how that works. No, that ain't how that works. You quick to tell me that you just got out of a divorce. You quick to just tell me that, oh, you need to lose some weight. You quick to tell me that, oh, you just need a little bit of money. But you ain't gonna tell me that you got a position at your new job. You ain't gonna tell me that you driving an all white fucking BMW. You not gonna tell me that you lost a couple of pounds and now you trying to slim down a little bit, looking magnificent. Hey, watch out now. Calm down, Meech. You're not gonna tell me that you are making progress in your success. You just want to acknowledge your failures. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you that, yeah, failure tends to sting. It does. But success is the ointment for the scars that our failures leave behind. Stop ignoring that. Stop ignoring that. Give yourself permission to succeed just as much as you give yourself permission to fail. A lot of us are doing great. We're just not doing the things that we want to be doing. And I say that because for me, I feel like my life is in fast forward. And when I mean it's in fast forward, I expect things to happen at a certain time. And when they don't happen, I'm upset about it. Fuck everything else. My uncle, he told me one time, he said, you really got to understand that you only been doing this for so long. You ain't been doing this long. And then he turned around like a couple of months later and he said, the way that God is working on you and the amount of things that are happening for you in such a short period of time. But I was so hell bent on my bigger goals that everything else wasn't an accomplishment. It was a failure. So I'm going to tell you this right now. Whether you lose a pound or you lose 20, you still lost weight. Whether you have acquired $1 or you acquired thousands, you still made more money. And whether you took one step or you took 1,000, you still traveled. Give yourself permission to succeed. No, I really like how I sound on air. Like, I don't know who needs to hear that. I know this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I love the way I sound. Hey, do me a favor. If you're hearing this episode, go ahead, shoot over to Instagram at Meech Speaks and just tell me, how I sound on air. You feel me? Just let me know how my voice sounded. But the next topic I wanted to roll right into, and honestly, it kind of just ties into what I just said. Give yourself permission to be yourself. I get it. You around new people. You don't know them. They don't know you. But there's a moment that when we get around new people, we're hesitant to show them who we are. And because we're hesitant to show them who we are, we put up this mask. You see what I'm saying? And when you put up this mask has you're hiding who you are. And the problem is that a lot of times the mask is the thing that people fall in love with, not the person behind the mask. And what I mean by that is that you were worried about whether or not they would have accepted the real you. Now you have a whole bunch of people loving a version of you that does not really exist. That person's not real. That's just who I pretend to be when I go to work. And I remember when I did the episode Mask Off, I used to talk about the persona that you wear when you put your camis on, with your rank, the persona that you have at work, with the professionalism, the persona that you have with the billets that you hold. You try to not pretend. You try so hard to pretend to be somebody else that you forget that it's who you are that's going to attract the right people. You see what I'm saying? It's who you are that's going to attract the right people. And if you are faking it, one thing's for certain. People pick up on a person that's not real. They pick that up. Another thing is that people tend to pick up on a person that's not genuine. That's better. They pick up on somebody that's not genuine. And when I mean genuine, you could be genuine to them, but we know that you're not genuine to yourself. We know you don't like that stuff. Give yourself permission to be you. And I get it. A lot of people ain't gonna like it. I'll just be the first one to say that. A lot of people are not going to like that. In fact, you might spend time alone. But are you really alone when you are really with yourself? Are you really upset that nobody likes you when you're being yourself? I would rather, to be honest with you, I would rather be me and be happy than to pretend to be somebody else and everyone else be happy. I don't like it. And I think that's probably why, like, I find it so hard to like change. You see what I'm saying? Because like if the change goes against who my character is, if the change goes against like me, I don't think I can make that change. You see what I'm saying? Like I don't think I'm able to make that change. Because although that's making you happy, although that person is the person that you think I should start portraying myself, I don't feel comfortable with that. And shit, man, like when you go back and think about it a little bit, that's probably why I wanted to take a break from social media. Because the person that I was portraying myself to be and the person that I currently was, they weren't coexisting with each other. They were two different people. It felt like almost as if Meech Speaks was my mask and here I was without it. I will say this right here. When you're not you, you're not you. Like, when you're not you, you're not you. And that shit wears on you. Pretending to be somebody that you're not happy with right now. Pretending to be somebody for 8 hours out of the day is exhausting. Because you only get 2 to 3 hours when you get home before you go to bed to actually be who you are. This ain't how you gonna spend your 2021. Be yourself. Next, and I like this one. Give yourself permission to feel crappy, to feel like shit, to feel sad, to feel upset, to feel mad, to feel all of your other emotions. You know what I mean? Like, we live in this society right now where this whole, you gotta be positive, you gotta think on the bright side, positive mental attitude, like we so quick to throw mindfulness around, like as if mindfulness means to be positive. Mindfulness means to live in the present. I'll say that right now. Mindfulness does not mean to be positive. Mindfulness means to live in the present. And if your current present is you feeling like shit, then that's your present right now. And I don't know who needs to hear that, but if your present right now is a fucking storm, then that's what the fuck your present is. And I say this, like, allow yourself to be crappy, to feel like shit, because one thing we have a problem, what we tend to do is repress all the negative emotions and try to act like they don't exist. You see what I'm saying? Like we try to act like they're not there. But the reality is that they are there and they do need to be acknowledged. And if you don't acknowledge them right now, they're going to continue to sit with you. So I'm going to just be the first one. You just got out of a bad relationship, mourn the loss. Let me rephrase, not a bad relationship. You just had your heart broken. You just had your heart broken. You feel like shit. You think that jumping into rebound relationships and, drinking your problems away and surrounding yourself around everybody is going to help you forget? No. How about you just acknowledge the fact that you lost somebody? Because your heart misses them. You're not doing good at your job. Okay, I get that. Rather than try to like ignore that problem and ignore your taskers and try to like keep trying to find another way to get around it, how about you acknowledge the fact that you're not doing good? Because when you acknowledge something, you're able to digest it and dissect it. You're able to dissect it and digest it. Break it down. Bring it into you and be able to move forward. So many lessons get missed from the failures that we take because of the simple fact that we choose to ignore the negative emotions that come with it. You didn't hit your mark. Okay, you feel like shit. I get it. You feel like shit. I get it. But the problem is, and this is one thing I want people to understand, ain't nothing wrong with feeling like shit. You don't want to hang out. I get it. You feel like shit. You depressed. I get it. You don't want to be bothered with nobody. I get it. You want to sit in your house, drink a bottle of wine, eat some ice cream. I hope not in that order. It don't sit right with your stomach. But you want to lay on the couch. You have no energy to do that. That is your right. Because this is the thing, is that you cannot be positive if you don't learn to acknowledge your negative. A real positive mindset is not trying to deny your negative emotions. It's knowing that better days are going to come. But you got to acknowledge it. And I think that was the main reason why I wanted to just step away from all of this. It's because the reality is that if the moment I hopped online, I had to go ahead and just, all right, it's time to get on stage. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh shit, it's time to put the mask on. No, I want to heal. No, I want to acknowledge these. No, I want to feel fucking sad. No, I want to feel like the world is ending. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Because once I get through it, you feel me? Once I get through it, then I'm going to be better. I'll say this before we move on to the next topic. If you do not learn to acknowledge crappy situations, you're always going to find yourself in a shitty situation. When I drove across this country, I had to acknowledge the fact that there was black ice on the road. For those who have driven in the snow before or know exactly what I'm talking about, black ice is, it's the ice on the road, but it, the road's black. So like you can't tell that it's ice on the road. And you driving on that, you can find yourself in a ditch or into a tree. It's not a good idea. When I saw it, I was presented with two opportunities. I could ignore the black ice on the road and continue to keep driving, even though I have not driven in those type of conditions in almost 8 years. Or I can pull my goofy ass over and let it pass. What do you think I did? I pulled over and I let it pass. I stopped at a hotel. I called it a night. That's what it's got to be when you feel crappy at times. Like you can't keep moving forward. You got to go ahead and acknowledge that. Let that shit marinate. Let that shit sit with you. Go ahead, give it detail, give it thought. And then once you have finally figured out what's going on with you, then you can return. One more analogy, and I promise you I'm done. We're so quick to acknowledge when our bodies are not performing at the level that they're supposed to. Like we get hurt, we know that we got to stay off that leg. No, we can't use that hand. Hey, don't kick me right there. My ribs are tight. I'm not feeling good. I got to take some medicine. But we will ignore our emotional pain because of the simple fact that what? Because it doesn't have physical form, because it does not physically affect you. Just to go back to my first episode with overthinking. How the hell are you supposed to perform when you have so many negative thoughts in your head right now? Sitting, waiting to be addressed, to be helped. Like they had a fucking line at a DMV. Come on, man. Give yourself permission. X. I love the fact that, we go from one thing to this complete opposite. So if I'm giving myself permission to be shitty, then I'm definitely about to give myself permission to be happy. And just like when we don't give ourselves permission to be successful or to appreciate our success or our small victories, a lot of times we don't give ourselves permission to be happy. And the reason why we don't give ourselves permission to be happy is because we're currently still in a bad situation. You feel me? Like, we're currently still in a bad situation. So we say to ourselves, like, I'm not about to laugh at that, or I'm not about to, we ignore our happy emotion, not realizing that that's actually the light that you actually need to get you out of the dark situation right now. You messing up at a task or you keep fucking up, but something good did happen that day, but you're going to ignore it. Not realizing that little bit of good right there is about to propel you to it. Sometimes, like, one thing that y'all need to know is like a lot of times in shitty situations, that little ray of happiness is like when Mario gets that mushroom and it helps him get bigger to be able to overcome the things that are in his way, step on those turtles and shit. You're having a bad day, but then there's that little bit of something that makes you laugh. You're having a bad week, but on Wednesday, hey, shit was good for you. Thursday and Friday was just trash. Things ain't working the way that you want them to. But your family look good. They happy. They fed. Give yourself permission to feel happiness. A lot of times we tend to ignore small bits of happiness because once again, it's not the happiness that we want. Because it's not the happiness that we want, we feel like as if like we're not deserving of happiness. Because it's not the happiness that we want, then we ignore it because it does not give us form. It does not make us happy. It's not what we want. And I get it. We desire things. We want things. But the reality is, and I'm going to just say this real quick. The reality is that you're going to have to be able to take what you got sometimes to be able to get what you want. You're going to have to be able to appreciate the little things in life if you are even going to be able to scale the skyscrapers of the things that you want in life. Like, you got to be able to appreciate the little things. I'll give you a scenario. I'll give you a quick scenario. When I had bust my windshield, and, it's a whole story in itself that, man, you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes. Shit. When I bust my windshield, I will say that day, the day I honestly, that weekend, I was so upset about that. I had to cough up like $230. You feel me? But although I'm upset right now, I wasn't even like, I had to take a step back. You feel me? Like, I really had to take a step back and say that day, it was a vibe. It was a whole vibe. I actually had an amazing time. I was surrounded by good people. Just one bad thing happened. You feel me? Like, just one bad thing happened. And just because one bad thing happens does not mean that it cancels all the happiness that you just received. And then to switch gears, that weekend was one of my best weekends in California. I'm not even about to lie to you. It was so peaceful. It just had so much love. It was such a vibe. And I would have missed out on all of that if I would have just been so dwelling over, oh my God, my windshield's messed up. I'm driving around with a cracked windshield and oh my God, I got to cough up X amount of dollars because nah, man, like, give yourself permission to experience life and love life and be happy. I hate to sound like, so whatever about it, but at the same time, like, you got to be happy about the little things. So as we wrap up this episode, I want you to practice a few things this week. Learn to practice patience, gratitude, and mindfulness. Patience, because you cannot control the things that happen in you. Let me rephrase. Patience, because you cannot control everything in your life. But you need to have patience in order to get the things that you want in life, because everything takes time. Gratitude, because you could be fucking dead. I'm not even about to hold you up. You could be in a worse situation. I don't mean to hit you with the look on a bright side type of mindset. I don't mean to hit you with the, oh, shit could be worse type of mindset. Not to undermine your problems, but I'm going to just be 100 with you. Shit could be worse. All right? Shit could be worse. You feel me? Like that windshield. Like I'm upset that I got to cough up $200. I'm not even realizing the fact that I have $200 to cough it up. I could be broke. Mindfulness. One thing that we need to understand is that mindfulness is not forced positivity. It's not a positive mindset. That's not what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is living in the present. And if your present is bad, good, or ugly, I need you to live in it. Take the lessons that come with it and be able to grow from it.
And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Stay tuned Mondays and Fridays. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Meech Speaks. Once again, that's Meech Speaks. Meech is spelled M-E-E-C-H. Don't forget to share this podcast, subscribe to this podcast, follow this podcast, pass this podcast to somebody, because this podcast was dedicated to helping everyone become a better version of themselves. Even though I don't know what that type of version is, I just know that you can be better. Lastly, Don't forget to grab your copy of The Extraordinary Thought from the Ordinary Mind, available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. I think there's an electrical copy. You know what it is. Stay hungry, stay motivated. I'm out.